Hi, my name is Karla Gage. I'm an associate professor of weed science and plant biology at SIU. I'm an SIU alumna. I graduated from the plant biology program in 2013, and I came back as faculty in 2015 to run the weed science lab. So my lab is focused on weed control in a number of different agricultural systems. We work in soybeans, corn, wheat, sorghum, and industrial hemp. We're focused on increasing the sustainability of these systems. I'm a weed ecologist and I study all the interactions that happen ecologically in the agricultural field. So I'm interested in the biotic interactions, which would be the relationships between the weed species themselves, as well as the weeds and the crops. I'm also interested in the interactions between the weeds and the microbes in the field and the weeds and the insects. I'm also interested in all the abiotic interactions. So these are all the types of management that we use in the agricultural field. So examples, the primary example in the agricultural systems in the Midwest are the interactions between the weeds and herbicides. But there's also other types of management such as tillage, crop rotations, the use of residues in the field from things like cover crops to suppress weeds. So all of those things together influence what happens in the agricultural field as far as the weed ecology. We know that weeds can evolve fairly quickly. An example of this is the large number of cases of herbicide resistance that have evolved globally. Right now, there are more than 500 cases of unique resistance across the world. So this is an indication of the amount of pressure that we put on herbicides to manage weeds in agricultural systems. It's really just a probabilities game. The more acreage that you use an herbicide across, the more likely you are to find one individual plant with a genetic mutation that's going to allow it to overcome that herbicide. In some geographies, we have almost a complete loss of the chemical tools that we rely upon. And this is beginning to put crop production at risk. So we're looking for other alternative solutions, things that we can put in combination with herbicides to improve the sustainability of our weed control, and we call this integrated weed management. So the goal of my lab is to improve the sustainability of weed control in agricultural systems, building upon our herbicide tools and integrating other types of management practices into those systems. Oh, here's a weed. This is what we would call one of our economic driver weeds. So this is one of the weeds that farmers design management programs around, and it has evolved herbicide resistances as well, so it can be really difficult to control. Cover crops will suppress this through the winter. So this is a cereal rye cover crop. So that grass will continue to grow throughout the winter on warm days. It'll accumulate a lot of biomass, and then when we're ready to plant the soybean crop, it'll be about 4 feet tall, and we can use all that residue to suppress the weeds. So it's really good for soil conservation as well as weed control. So my lab focuses on building effective herbicide management programs. And in order to do this, we have to screen for herbicide resistance. So we'll collect seed and take plants into the greenhouse and spray them to determine the efficacy of the herbicides that we work with. We also build in other types of management. So here you see we have cover crops planted in this field. That's a non-cash crop, so it's something that we plant for ecological benefits. Cover crops can improve soil quality and resiliency in the face of climate change, but they can also suppress weeds. So next season, we'll be looking at the weed suppression of this cereal rye cover crop here as we plant soybeans into it. So we'll roll down the cover crop and create a mat of biomass that's going to suppress the weeds. In order to screen for herbicide resistance and do the work that we do, we also have a large accession of weed seeds in refrigerators in the greenhouse that we can pull out and study at any time. In order to study the change over time, to look at how the weeds are changing in the field, we'll study the soil seed bank. So we'll wash the soil away from the weed seeds and identify them visually under a microscope. And then we can look at the changes over time to see how effective our management practices are. So students in my lab learn a lot of different skills to do this type of work. Weed ID is critically important, so that's something that we spend a lot of time learning. Also, we'll learn how to target management practices for particular plants. You kind of have to know about the biology and the ecology of the weeds that you're trying to control in order to know how to control them. A lot of the students that come through my lab are interested in the field of crop protection. So they're looking for careers where they go into research with universities or major agricultural industries. They may also be interested in going into work with government agencies that focus on land management. So I can help them gain all those skills to get those jobs that they're seeking. This is one of our weed seed bank grow outs. So we'll put soils in these trays and we'll identify the seedlings that germinate from the trays. And this is another way that we can manage the effectiveness of our programs and how they change the weed seed bank over time. So we have to be really good at our seedling ID. I typically have around 5 graduate students, master's and PhD students, and then our lab ranges anywhere from 6 to 9 undergraduate researchers that help us with those students' projects. These are native plants that are used for conservation, pollinator conservation plantings. So we're looking at the sensitivity of these plants to herbicides. So often herbicides that are applied in the agricultural field will drift and move off target into the surrounding field margins. So we're doing a project to look at the sensitivity of pollinator plants to the herbicides that we commonly use in the ag field. Hi, how are you doing, Charles?
Doing good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. That's an herbicide resistance screen that's happening across multiple states, 6 states, I believe. And we're looking for certain types of resistances, but we're sending all of those to the University of Missouri. And we're doing this for 3 different agricultural weeds of interest. So if you're interested in the work of our lab, please feel free to reach out and contact me. You can click the link below, and I'm happy to schedule a meeting with you at any time to talk about your interests.